Welcome to the ITProTV webinar series live from the ITProTV studios. Today we're talking about how to hack your way into the cybersecurity field with Edutainer Daniel Lowrie and security consultant John Strand. John is the owner of Black Hills Information Security, a company that specializes in penetration testing and security architecture services. He's consulted and taught hundreds of organizations in the areas of security, regulatory compliance, and penetration testing. He's a coveted speaker and much-loved SANS teacher, and one of the founders of Wild West Hackenfest. Daniel is one of our ITProTV edutainers, specializing in cybersecurity topics. He's a red teamer who teaches courses like CompTIA Pen Test Plus and CEH V11 for the platform.
Hey, welcome to the show. I'm your moderator for today, Sophie Goodwin, and we'd really love for you to chime in with your questions and comments and just help guide our conversation today. Whether you're watching on Zoom, LinkedIn, YouTube, or the ITProTV live channel, just put your questions in the chat and we'll get to them. One lucky viewer will win some ITProTV swag. I'm holding that upside down, so keep that in mind. And Daniel, I'm really excited for today because later on the show, we've got John Strand joining us, right?
That is exactly right. The man, the myth, the legend himself, one Mr. John Strand. So if you've got questions for John, make sure you hold on to those until he shows up, because otherwise, well, you won't see them, right? So we'll make sure you get the right place at the right time, get those questions to him if you're looking for him specifically to answer them for you. If you just have questions generally, well, this is the time for that as well. I will chime in, I will answer as best of my abilities. We'll have a good time, we'll have a good conversation all about things cybersecurity, because that's what this is all about. And it's just a good chance for all of us to kind of come together and have that conversation about anything that we can think of that might be interesting to us in the cybersecurity sphere. So I know there's a lot of people out there. I get questions all the time. I'm constantly answering things for people out there on LinkedIn and through our forums here at ITProTV, and it is really good because it just goes to show there's a lot of people that are coming into the field and have a lot of things they just don't know what they don't know. So this is a great place for those people to get their answers. Or if you're in the field and you're like, you know what, I've always wondered about this, but I've never had an opportunity. Another great way, maybe we can answer that as well and just get a conversation going. If you're in the chat room, feel free to answer each other as well. It's not just us, this is a community. We want to have those organic conversations going throughout this entire lovely little time we get to spend together. So that said, I say we get to it. We stop wasting time because your time is valuable and we appreciate it. So, Sophia, do we have any questions from the chat room, or do we have anything we just want to just start talking about in general?
We do have some questions, so I can definitely pull one of those for you.
Okay.
We got one up first that, as a red teamer, you might be well poised to answer. It says, if I want to be a red teamer, what certifications do you recommend?
Ooh, that's a good question, right? Certifications, super hot when it comes to, right? Super hot when it comes to, trying to prove those skill sets. And they do tend to kind of niche out after a while. And red teaming, so this is an interesting conversation, honestly. And if you're kind of new to the security space, the cybersecurity space, it might seem a bit confusing. So let's cover that ground a little bit before we hit on the certification itself, or certifications that are available. Understand that red team, the term, is used one of typically two ways, right? One team is kind of generically or generally speaking to the idea of an offensive security professional, someone who uses hacking techniques to help better secure an organization, a client, so on and so forth. Then there is a red teamer, someone who does red team operations, right? They are actually specifically doing certain things like threat emulation. That is a very niche thing, but you kind of see these two terms interchangeably used. So if that was confusing you, hopefully that will help my answer be a little bit more clear. There are red team certifications. The first ones that popped in my head are the CRTO, the Certified Red Team Operator, I believe that it is, and then there's the Certified Red Team Professional. So those are pretty hot, those are very well known. I'm blanking out right now on who actually provides those certifications, but if you look up the CRTO or the CRTP, they should jump right out in your Google search. So if you're looking for a specific certification for red teaming, those are the ones that I typically see come across my feeds and know about generally as kind of the de facto for red teaming specifically. If you're just looking for getting into red team security, as in being a red teamer, as far as like, I want to do offensive security. I want to be someone who uses hacking techniques to help. And this would fall under the rubric of something like a penetration tester or an ethical hacker. Even some vulnerability assessment, I would think, would fall underneath that as well. If that's what you're looking to do, that's cool. There are plenty and vast amounts of actually really good certifications that are out there right now. I could probably rattle off at least 5 of them off the top of my head. I'm thinking of, OSCP, PNPT, Pentest Plus, CEH, EJPT, ECPPT, and the list goes on, right? There's plenty of them out there. So if you're looking to just kind of move into that space, you want to do ethical hacking, you're not really so much concerned about red teaming per se, being a red teamer, but you want to be on the red team. There you go. Hopefully that helps you out. Answers your questions. Plenty of certs out there that ought to get you in the right spot.
Yeah, no better guy to ask that question to, because Daniel, actually, you cover a decent amount of our cybersecurity courses here. I'm watching the CEH course right now that Daniel
Are you really?
Taught. I am.
I
yeah.
did not know that.
I had just gotten here last year when you and Kathy started filming that, and
Yeah.
now I'm watching it, so we came full circle.
Yeah. What's your assessment of that? Would you call it quality training? Be
I'm-
honest. No shill here, right?
You're not gonna get fired, no.
no BS assessment. How do you like it?
So far, so good. There have been a few times where like a term will come up that I'm not quite familiar with, so I just take a break and I do a little searching, and then I'm like, okay, now I understand, and I come back to it, and it's been fun to watch. You and Kathy make it fun, which is a huge thing for me, because it's tough to sit and watch a course when it's just dry. So y'all make it fun.
You know what? I absolutely understand that mentality. I have been that person sitting there going, okay, yep, another slide. Slides are tasty. I love them.
Yeah.
They go down easy. So we do try to really make our course content enjoyable to watch, engaging. Like, we want you to want to watch it, and not just like, oh, this is something I have to drudge through. I don't want to make it a drudgery. I want to make it interesting and as well as effective. I've always strived for that. I know CEH v12 has just actually been released, so I will start working on preparing to come up with the CEH v12. Who knows who my host could be on that show?
I will be putting my name in for
Well,
consideration.
Well, you know.
Slide a $20 bill across the table. And maybe just put my name in the hat there.
Obviously, our schedules will dictate a lot to that.
Sure.
But if you're free,
Schedule.
love to have you on that show. All right, enough rambling.
We do have.
What do we got?
Several questions.
Several.
This one might actually be good. I feel like this is a good question for you. What labs are available from ITProTV for preparing to learn more about pen testing and ethical hacking?
Oh, well, that's an easy one, right? We have practice labs, right? Not too long ago, we partnered with practice labs, and now they are a part of the ACI Learning family. It's all one big happy family now. So we have CEH labs, we have Pentest Plus labs, if I'm not mistaken. So both of those would be great sets of labs for you to start kicking your feet around in and getting some experience with different tools and techniques in a very safe environment. You can totally hose it, no biggie. Just close your labs and restart a new one. Everything's fresh and new. So I like that kind of stuff where you kind of have that safety net around you, to where you don't have to worry about whether or not you break something, because it can just be refreshed and you're back in business. So we have those practice labs available for you if you're looking for those hacking labs. That should be on your wish list right there.
Yeah, definitely. There's I've kind of started poking around in some of the labs that we have available. Haven't done any yet, only because, like I said, I just started the CEH course like a week or two ago, and I think it'll take me a little bit to work my way through it. But it's nice to have that option to practice. That's why it's called a practice lab, to practice that stuff in a controlled environment, so I don't have to worry about breaking stuff.
Aptly named, right,
I am
folks?
prone
Aptly named.
to doing that. But yeah, so that was a great answer. Thank you, Daniel.
Well, I try.
It's almost like you're doing your job.
My level best, yeah.
Your level best. We have another question for you if you're up for it.
Well, I mean, if I must, right? That's why the folks are here, anyway, right? Get some questions answered, hopefully, and just to have a good conversation.
Just to have a good conversation.
Yeah.
We've got a question from Tracy. Tracy asks, what do you feel is the best way to prepare for an exam like Certified Ethical Hacker?
For me, right, this is obviously going to be a bit of a subjective answer, right? Because it's my personal preference for how I prepare for things like this. I tend to over-prepare. I hate getting in there and being like, I don't know these things. Oh no, right? So I kind of take each section in chunks, and anything that I think, or I say that, anything I know that I'm just not solid on, that's where I'm going to kind of push that off and as I work my way through the objective list and go, okay, now that I know, I'm pretty sure I've got all this stuff about, this is where I need to focus. I will then focus in on those weak spots, as it were, take some time until I feel comfortable with that. I'm not kind of I'm not so much into the whole practice test taking kind of person. I'm the kind of person that just likes to throw himself into the breach and see what happens. But for CEH, it is and that was the specific exam, if I remember correct. Is that what they were asking about CEH?
That is correct.
It is an ABC, multiple choice, put the right thing with the right thing kind of exam, traditional exam. Those gamification can kind of come into play. Understand you don't have to make 100%. You just got to aim for a spot just above where you are trying to pass. What is a passing score? Get a passing score, right? So there can be some things that come into play, whether or not you review questions or not. Other than that, prep-wise, take a lot of detailed notes, right? And this is fun. This is what I like to do, is I like to take notes on something, right? And then I find those weak spots, and I go back to the notes that I took, and I see if they make sense to me. Did I leave anything out? Do I look at my note and go, what was I talking about? Why did I make, this doesn't make, I'm an idiot. That's why I don't understand this, because I didn't understand it when I took the note. I just wrote some random musings about the thing that I'm trying to learn down in my scratch pad, and now I'm coming back to it, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense. That's how I know I didn't really pick up on it. So now I need to focus in on that. I need to fill those gaps in. And now when I take a set of notes, and I'm rebuilding those notes, they should be much more detailed, and that should lead to a lot more success. Other than that, getting your hands on everything, right? That is going to be your best instructor. Do not be afraid to build a lab and break it, right? That's just how it goes. Virtualization is a thing we all should have access to. VirtualBox, if you're not familiar, it is a free virtualization software that you can run. Obviously, you need a little bit of horsepower to be able to run it, but even if you're running only a single VM plus your host VM, you can still get a lot done with just those two devices. If you have a little more horsepower under the hood, obviously you can spin up a few more things, and that's always great. So definitely build the labs, start working with the things, even trying to emulate what you're seeing in our practice labs. So if you're looking at practice labs and they're running something like the BWAP, download the BWAP and install it locally. And then you can even dig further under the hood, or at least more easily, right? Because you have more control over that environment. So now you have two areas in which you can play around with the same thing, but in different ways. So for me, getting my hands on those things and really trying to think of use cases, look up use cases on the web, another great way to get kind of schooled up on how these things work out practically. One of my favorite things to do is take those topics I'm looking for, like maybe I'm trying to learn a little more about cross-site scripting attacks. Go look up like responsible disclosure reports, like bug bounties, right? You go on all these platforms, some of them will actually have bug bounty write-ups, and because the company was like, yeah, totally, you can completely disclose all your research. These are some great researchers out there that are writing these things up, and now you can learn from their real-world experience. Heck, join a bug bounty program yourself and attempt some things. It's not going to hurt anything, right? Make sure you're under those safe harbors. You don't want to get in trouble, right? And follow those scoping details. Make sure you're well within your scope, but you can get some real-world hands-on by just participating in some bug bounty stuff, and it's a lot of fun. So for me, that would be how I would prepare for an exam such as that.
Good answer. Good answer. I'm very proud.
I'm glad you like it.
Real quick, we did that first question that we got. You had recommended maybe going towards that certified red team operator cert, or I think there was a second one you mentioned, CRTP.
Yeah.
I did a little light Googling, light, I don't know, binging,
as it
going.
takes, yeah.
As it takes, as you do. It looks like that CRTO cert, you might be able to take the exam through 0 point security. 0 point security,
right? Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
I didn't know if that sounded right or not.
That does sound right.
I don't have the knowledge like you do, so figured I would run that by you. But yeah, to the person that asked that, that's, you can start your search there, maybe. Yeah. We have another question here that I think you'll probably have a good answer for. It's from Everett. Everett wants to know, what are the best security conferences?
Ooh, this is a good one. That's and very
relevant.
Yes, relevant, apropos even to today's guest when he shows up. That's a good one. So my favorite security conference is why we have the guest that's coming on today, John Strand, because it's his security conference. I love it. I've been there since year one, and the only time I didn't go was because of COVID, right? And nobody was going to anything at that point. There was nothing to go to, right? So it's called Wild West Hacking Fest. Super fun. It is by far, for me, the best conference I've ever been to, because it's really just a lot of, it's not a big vendor floor trying to sell you a bunch of stuff with CISOs and whatnot walking around looking for the new great thing that's going to keep their world safe. It's a bunch of hackers talking to each other, giving talks, right, from people in the field that are doing something, finding out really cool research, and then disclosing that there at the conference. It's in little out of place nowhere, Deadwood, South Dakota. But man, it's a pretty little town. Everybody, the weather's always gorgeous because it's in October. So it's just a great time. There's a lot of good food and fun. We have fun. There's lockpicking. There's, I think Grimm is usually there, and they're, demonstrating things with like smart homes and vehicle hacking, and lots of the booths that are there are very pointed toward anybody that's into hacking would be interested in, right? So a lot of fun stuff. People there looking for work. The people there looking to get work. There's a CTF. Bunch of any of the village stuff that they do is always worthwhile. Tons of fun. You meet new people, you get new friends, make new contacts, and get to like learn some great stuff. So Wild West Hacking Fest, this is this guy's favorite conference. Other than that, as far as security conferences go, there's always the big ones, right? And there's always good things that you learn at all these conferences. It just might not be your niche. So there's things like RSA and Black Hat, where it's really good to go and learn. The Black Hat is very highly technical, whereas RSA is more geared toward the, at least in my experience, a lot of it was geared toward working in the management side of things. So if you're at the C level or you are managing a large organization, a team, and their security is kind of geared toward you on that. So those would be the kind of like a 1-2 punch when it comes to the hacking versus the defending kind of thing. I'll put those two together. They are massive. And then of course you have good old-fashioned DEF CON, which is kind of a hacker's playground. It's very large. It's kind of a thing that most of us end up going to once in our life if we're in this field. So I have yet to be there, so I can't really speak to it quite yet. I have been to some B-sides though, and B-sides are great because they tend to be local. A lot of people put them on locally. You just got to look for one in your area, or you go to one of the bigger ones that are in something like Las Vegas and you attend. We had one in here in Tampa because I'm in Florida. Lots of fun. I made a lot of great contacts there. I learned a lot of really cool stuff. The talks there were great. So B-Sides has been one of my favorites to go to here lately as well. But for me, as I said, number one on my hit list is that Wild West Hacking Fest.
Well, that was a very good answer. See, and he's been to these conferences, and I decidedly have not. So definitely a good question for Daniel. And I guess I would say we could ask John when he gets here too, but I feel like he might say,
he
Wild
might
West
be a little
Hacking
jaded,
Fest.
like biased.
He might have a little bit of a predisposed, yeah. Yeah. So we do have some more questions to get to, but before we do that, can we maybe touch on, we've got a new course that we're working on.
We do have a new course.
It's going to be coming out.
And when we say we don't mean the royal we. We mean actually myself and Sophia.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we are actually working on it together. It's mostly Daniel teaching me how to do stuff, and then me attempting to do the stuff, but it is very fun. It's very fun. So, I mean,
you want to talk about that?
A good time. Would not mind. I think we might have some footage that we can cut too.
We have
but
footage
yeah,
of this ought to be fun. So this is our intro to IoT hacking course, or IoT pen testing is what we label it. It's for consistency purposes, but basically we're hacking IoT stuff.
Yeah.
And it is a lot of fun. So if you've always been interested in IoT, but just haven't kind of bridged that gap quite yet, and you're ready to start learning more about it, that's what this series is all about. Taking those ethical hacking and penetration testing techniques that you have, how do we point that toward the IoT world? And then from there, how do we move into things like firmware and hardware? So we're going to be crossing those bridges as well. We just started filming this week, so we got a few episodes in the bag already, but it's been a ton of fun. And as you say, we've got some footage on this, right?
We do. So instead of us just attempting to describe it to you, we can show you. So let's go ahead and let's take a look. You don't need to be a physicist to know how to work a multimeter, but you do need to know what these symbols mean so you don't fry your dang board. Stick around, we'll show you how to use it.
You're watching ITProTV.
Hey, thanks for joining us for more IoT pen testing. I'm Sophie here with Daniel Lowrie, and we're going to talk about some more devices today. I get to use my friend Bendy, the little camera.
We
I get
do
to
love Bendy, don't
get to
we?
be hands-on. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and this is Bendy. Sorry, I should have introduced him. But
Maybe
he's here.
they didn't watch that episode, so.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you missed that. So.
Eventually, we're gonna have to just assume they've known who Bendy is.
Yeah, yeah.
We
It's your
can
own fault.
introduce Bendy every episode.
You can go back and look at the lore. We're not
Yeah.
going to re-explain it to you.
And this is measured in amps or amperes. Most people just say amps though, and it gives you that. So there's a couple other pins over to the right there, RFTS and CTS. So you got VCC, you got G&D, you've got TXD, you've got RXD, you've got RTS, you got CTS. Whew. Lions and tigers and bears. Oh my. Yeah, that's pretty good.
I'm doing my best.
That's good.
I don't
'cause
have
you,
a man's
You had
voice.
the rage in it though.
Yeah.
And even though
That comes from in here.
I could tell, I could tell that you didn't have the man's voice, but you
Yeah.
came as close.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you came very close to
Thank
it, which
you.
is so like when I'm doing Arnold, I don't have the right tone. It is super tiny because here's my hand. You can see the size of this thing as compared to my hand, right? And what she's referring to is this little thing right here. It's not the only one on the board, but that's the one that's important for us right now. So Sophia, if you want to
I get to use
grab
the fun
old
camera?
Bendy Bend.
All right.
Yeah, there it is. Like you said, just north of the JTAG and the UART there, you've got this little chip.
So it's straight. Sorry.
Yeah, use the monitor.
I'm not trying to give people like vertigo. Here
There
we
it
go.
is. There it is. You know, it's got some information written on the top there, some other pieces, and we'll talk about. You'll notice it's got a little dot on there. You notice that? You can. I don't know if I'm in the way.
Trying to like focus it.
There's a little dot right
Oh, yeah,
there.
yeah.
You see that? That lets you know that that is pin 1.
Yeah, and they're finally letting me touch stuff and handle things
I'm
and
sure they
use the
still
camera. Yeah, well, yeah, let's hope. Let's hope. It's fine. We're not going to use these devices. These were just dummy props. But they're letting me touch stuff, which is great.
They're
so
not dummy props.
hopefully.
We're going to use these devices.
Well, that's great.
Hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Now I'm depressed. So. But we'll get to look some more at this stuff in some other episodes that we've got coming up. So stick around. Don't go away. We'll see you next time.
Well, that was kind of fun.
That was. It's a little odd, like cutting to it, and then it's like, oh, that's me.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a little weird, but definitely we've been having a lot of fun.
I love how they put in like where we were talking about doing voices.
The in between.
That was
stuff.
not in the show. That was like a behind the scenes.
That's a
thing.
different course we're working on.
Yeah,
Voice acting
yeah,
101.
that's right. We want
It's
to make sure you
separate
get the
thing.
inflections right, the timbre, the tones.
He doesn't have the Arnold tone.
I
so
don't.
he's
It's just
working on
not
it.
quite there. I wish I could, but it's not going to happen.
He's workshopping it.
Yeah.
But yeah, cool to see it from this
Very
perspective.
cool stuff. I can't wait to really, like we said, we just kind of started working on this course, so I'm really looking forward to getting into. Right now, we're just kind of like, oh, these are some of the tools. Next week, hopefully, we'll be cranking some exploits at these things and taking over devices, and that'll be a lot of fun for me.
It'll be fun for me because I get to watch him do it. I get to handle the camera for now, but I think once we start doing
I'm going to make you
big
do
boy
some stuff.
You're going to make me do some stuff?
Absolutely.
All right. See, I didn't know that.
Right?
I'm just finding this out now
Listen,
for the first time.
experience is the best teacher, ladies and gentlemen.
That's true.
So.
That's true. Well, now that we've patted ourselves on the back and plugged that course that we're having a lot of fun with, are you ready for some more questions?
I guess it's time. Yeah, hit me.
I might have some questions for you. We've got one that says, what advice would you give to someone already in IT support, wanting to transition into cybersecurity? What certifications would you recommend?
Okay, that's a great question. And actually, you're in a really good spot, I would say, to transition into cybersecurity because you're already in an IT role. That means you have trust. And technically, this is fun, right? I'm going to philosophize here for 4 seconds. Technically, you are in a security role, right? Because you deal with users and you have trust to access their desktops, most likely. You have access to change their passwords, most likely. So you are at the front lines of defense for any organization that you might be working for. So that's great. What you need to do is start thinking that way, right? Start there. Like, I am a security professional, even though I'm in an IT support role. So if you're just on like a help desk, or even if you're like a systems administrator or a network administrator or something like that, and your main job role is to just build those things and put them together and have them do the thing they're going to do, and if they break, you need to fix them, that kind of stuff, That's still fine. You still need to worry about security, so start thinking that way, and that's going to push you one step ahead. So for me, if I were you and I was in your position, I'm assuming you're in like a help desk roles, workstation support kind of role. And even if you're not, it's a good place to start because some people that are listening to this answer might be there. And it applies to the others as well. I would start injecting myself into anywhere I can do something that is related specifically to security in my organization. Let your uppers know, like, hey, I'd love to help out on any security projects that I can do. I will do anything. I will run cables. I will, show me how to use a piece of software that you repetitively need to do, and I'll run it. I'll do all that. Just let me be a part of the show. Let me shadow. Let me get my neck in there and see what's going on. I don't even have to touch anything. Just let me watch. I'll do it on my own time. Give me anything. You let them know you're hungry to get on that stuff, and they're going to be like, wow, that's a go-getter. And make sure that you're doing your job very well and always being security focused and minded, right? Tell people when they go to change their password, hey, really make sure that you do it, and this is what makes a good password. Help them, right? You give a person a fish, you feed them for a day, you teach a person to fish, right? Feed them for the rest of their life. Same kind of idea. Always be that person that's pushing and learning and moving toward doing something in security. Now, talk about certifications, right? Is that an important thing to do? Absolutely. So it's a great way to kind of showcase that you do have security skills and that you are growing and learning. It's not the entire piece of the puzzle, but it is a large chunk of it, right? So finding those certifications that are going to be right for what type of security you wish to eventually find yourself in, because cybersecurity is a bit of an umbrella term, and then you kind of have the two larger terms, which are blue team, red team kind of idea. We talked a little bit about red team earlier. So do I want to do offensive security? Do I want to do defensive security? Do I want to defend my organization, or do I wish to use dangerous skills, hacking skills, so that those defenders can more properly defend that network? Got to figure out where you want to fall underneath those. And then even from there, it kind of niches out yet again. It starts to continue to spider. It's like fractal art. Right, to figure out where you're going to go. So just make sure you figure out, if I want to do blue team, well, I need to start learning about defensive things. Look for certifications in that realm. Everybody should probably get their Security Plus, just because it's a good introduction to security. If you've never done anything, security per se in that sphere, so go grab that Security Plus certification. It's just a general, the terms, the tribal knowledge that kind of moves along inside of that world. That's a great place to start. And then from there, hey, maybe I'm looking at like a CISA Plus because I'm really I'd like to be a SOC analyst, right? Maybe there's the Blue Team Level 1 that's out there, and now they have Blue Team Level 2. There's CISSP if you're looking to be a bit more managerial and yet still in that security space. It's a very inch deep and mile wide kind of idea around security. And you can totally go that route. If you're looking into ethical hacking, obviously there's the Pentest Plus of the world and the CEHs. We got EJPT out there from eLearn Security. There's a lot of good stuff out there. It's Babette's feast, honestly, when it comes to ethical hacking stuff and in the security, the certifications is what the word I'm looking for. So plenty of stuff for you to get your hands on out there. I like the PNPT. Pick your poison. Look at what your options are available. Any of those, all of those, they have some type of recognition. Some more than others. Some are up and comers. Some are considered, a little more dinosaur-y, but still well known. This is an ever evolving, constantly shifting sand environment when it comes to the security certs and the red team side of things. So look at what your options are. I like Pentest Plus quite a bit. I think it's a great certification. I like EJPT, especially for hands-on. It's a really good certification, and it's kind of fun, right? So those are good ones. Everybody knows CEH. It's good, because HR knows CEH. So if you're looking to kind of bypass HR, but you already have a role, right? So you're kind of already in the thick of things. So you might not need to go that route for that one. So again, everybody's situation is going to be a one-fits-one kind of solution. There is no real oh, this is how you do this, and it applies to everyone. There are only generalities, and I can just point you toward them so that you can figure out the right path for yourself. But hopefully that helps you out. Was there any part of that question I missed? It was a little lengthy. I just want to make sure I covered all the bases.
No, I think you sufficiently covered the bases.
Well, all right then.
I really thought, good answer.
Well,
I feel like I'm a Family Feud. Good answer.
yeah, good answer.
Good job.
Yes. Yes.
That was great.
Show me CEH.
You can't say that. This is a family show.
Yeah, that's right. Come on now.
We've got questions coming in from, I believe, YouTube, LinkedIn, ITProTV Live channel, and then also we have folks watching on Zoom now, and we have a question from a Zoom viewer.
From a Zoom viewer.
If you are so inclined to take that.
Well, heck, I'm already here, and I got my dress on, so
It's true.
let's do it.
This is what you're getting paid for. The question from the Zoom viewer says, what is the best approach to getting your foot in the door for an entry-level cyber job? I have no experience in the field, but I have CompTIA A+ and Security Plus with a master's degree in cybersecurity. Having a hard time even getting interviews. Any advice is appreciated.
Oh man, you are unfortunately dealing with the supply and demand, right? This is a supply and demand issue. So there are very few entry-level jobs. Again, I feel like you're coming from an ethical hacking standpoint because there are quite a. It's a really good field if you're looking for like that level 1 SOC analyst kind of thing. Those jobs are starting to really sprout up. So if you're looking to go that way, I feel like you should probably be able to find something in that space, at least more readily than you would if you're looking for ethical hacking, penetration testing, red teaming jobs, right? When it comes to that side of things, there are very few entry levels, right? And even junior positions require a bit of experience, right? So it's just the name of the game is the way it is. I didn't make the rules, I'm just following them, right? And that's just what's up. But your question is, okay, well that is the case, so how do I do it? What do I gotta do to get myself out there? Well, it kind of goes back to that problem of since there are so few of those entry-level jobs, they're highly coveted. So the people that are hiring for those jobs kind of have their pick of the litter, if you get my drift, right? They can really hold out for the person that they think is perfect for that job because they have such an influx of resumes. Because there are so many people out there that are looking to get into cybersecurity because it is fun, it can pay well, and it's an engaging line of work, and it's super necessary. Like we need qualified cybersecurity people. When you hear that being said, you got to understand that is cybersecurity is an umbrella term, right? They didn't say we need a bunch of penetration testers. We need 1 million penetration testers. That's not what they said. They said we need 1 million cybersecurity professionals. That covers a wide variety of areas. So if it just depends on what area you're looking into. You'll find more jobs versus less jobs. Depending on if you have a less job pool kind of thing going on, now you're fighting for being the top dog so that you can get picked as that person. How do we do that? How do we separate ourselves from the rest of the pack? That's what you got to do. You got to figure that out. For me, what I've noticed is that I guess a lot of people kind of use the term build your brand, right? You have to showcase yourself, right? This is a way, or what I'm talking about is by showing the skills, not just saying, well, I've got a certification. The certification proves my skills. Yeah, it kind of does, but I got 100 other applicants with the exact same credentials, right? What makes you better for this job, right? I like saying things like more better.
What makes you mo better?
Yeah, what makes you mo better, right? That's the question. Sophia, have you gone through this? Have you kind of seen this new kind of idea where you're kind of building your brand and that's what gives you that separation, that kind of showcases you head and shoulders above your competitors?
Oh, definitely. I think I don't have nearly as much experience in cybersecurity and IT. I'm working on that.
But you have looked for work.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true. I think that's true of people applying to colleges, people applying to jobs.
Right.
It's, especially like when applying to college, it's like you can have the grades or the GPA, you can have the test scores, you can even have some extracurriculars, but it's like if everybody else has that same stuff, they're looking for what's going to set you apart. And in turn, I guess, set them apart as an institution. And it's the same with jobs. If
Yes.
you're applying somewhere.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
It translates up, right? So you go from school to work, and it was the same kind of thing. You got to show yourself as being awesome, right? And not just the things you can do, but the person you are. You have to be a cool person. Because I know a lot of people that got jobs, and they didn't have as good of skills as other people. There were some super geniuses out there, but they were really difficult to work with. And nobody wants to work with really difficult people, right?
It's true.
They will find
That's
work.
why I don't like working with Daniel.
Yeah, I know, right? Real pain in the A, if you know what I mean, right? But no one really, right? Everybody knows that person in their life where you're just like, geez, if I had to work with them, I'd be. So you want to make sure that you showcase that you are someone that someone would want to work with. So you do this by becoming very social. Social media helps us out with this. Use your social media outlets to showcase your personality, that you're easy to work with, and your skills as well. So what I like to do is I'm a big proponent of LinkedIn because it's very business and job focused and oriented, whereas things like Twitter or Facebook, they kind of have all found their own niches, and that's not this. LinkedIn is that thing. So go into somewhere like LinkedIn, not that you can't use those others, I'm just saying, for myself, my personal thought process, go into those and start posting. Start liking people's stuff. Start engaging with them. Hey, make a little comment. Hey, that's really cool. Thanks for pointing me toward that resource. I didn't know about that. I can't wait to dig into that. I do that kind of stuff all the time. And people start to learn who you are. You make a post. Once a week, make a post about something you're learning, something you're doing. Get a GitHub page and start building things and slapping it in there. Whether it be a blue team tool or a red team tool, doesn't matter. Both, do both. Continue your learning process outside of school, outside of certification, and showcase that. Figure out those things that are kind of specific to the actual work and try to do something with that, like write a report, because everybody knows that we're the great communicators in the world when it comes to cybersecurity. That's not a true statement. Apparently, a lot of people have real trouble communicating those highly technical skills they have and capabilities into something that someone that doesn't have those skills could understand. If you master that craft, you set yourself above and beyond your competitors, right? So these are the kind of things you need to start figuring out as a part of. It's not just, can I secure an environment? Can I hack into a system? It's, can I show value to a possible hiring manager as someone everybody wants to work with, who is thirsty for knowledge, hungry to work, gonna be a go-getter, and how do they know that? Well, I've got certifications, I've got a GitHub page, I'm constantly on LinkedIn, I'm meeting new people, I'm making new connections, I'm going to meetups, I'm doing all these things. People know who I am, and that kind of gives me some street cred, whereas other people might not have that. So that would be my advice to help you, hopefully, bust into that role you're looking to get into.
I love what you said about communication too, because I think in any job it's important, but especially a job like this where you're talking about probably you're using a lot of specific terms or technical language, right? And so it's not even just, well, you need to learn how to be a better written and verbal communicator so that, talk more or send more emails or whatever. It's more like you gotta learn how to almost translate what you're saying to somebody like me that is not gonna know what you're talking about. So I think that's a great point for any job, but especially here.
Super important skill, because CEOs, they don't know what you're talking about, but they know it's important that their whatever findings you have or whatever hardware you're going to implement is going to, like, how do you tell them that that's going to be worth their money? Right. That's an important thing. You figure that skill out, you got a really solid chance. And then of course the people can be like, if I know Sophia and she's looking to get in the work, and then I'm over at a conference, I'm talking with John Strand, he's like, man, we could really use an intern for some IoT hacking, right? We're like, Sophia, she's really smart. She hasn't had a lot of experience with it, but she picks up things really quickly, and I know she'd be a great worker. She would be fast. I mean, if you need somebody with X, Y, and Z skills right now, she's not gonna be able to fill that bill, but if you're willing to invest in somebody, I know she would be great. I vouched for her, right? That's a great way to get work. Only because she doesn't know John Strand, but I do. He doesn't know her, but he knows me. you start to see how these things kind of can work out. That's why it's important to go to conferences and meetups and start to engage with people and networking with them on the human network as well as your technological network.
Wow, what a great metaphor. Wow, you're like a linguist or a
like
poet
a
or something.
sage.
Yeah, like a sage. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if you're such a sage, are you ready to answer more questions?
Probably not.
Probably not. Probably not. But I'm going to throw one at you anyway, because we like a challenge here. This one is from Wayne. It says, what would you suggest for someone that has the SEC Plus and is looking for a red team job? Which cert first?
Which cert first? I mean, we kind of covered this a little bit already, but he's like, all right, I got my Security Plus. I've already crossed that bridge, right? For me, I like Pentest Plus. I like EJPT. For me, one of those two would do you well. CEH is another good. It's a large one, but my favorite is going to be like EJPT is my favorite, and then Pentest Plus for me because you want to be a pen tester. CEH talks about how they are an ethical hacking cert and not a penetration testing cert. So if you want to be an ethical hacker, then you're going to want to go CEH. If you want to be a pen tester, you're going to want to go Pentest Plus and EJPT. So those are kind of like for me, it's like a 1-2 punch. It's not an either or, it's both and, right? So if I wanted to be a pen tester, I would start with, you already have your Sec Plus, then I would probably just go ahead because I'm in that CompTIA world, go Pentest Plus, and then from there, jump to EJPT, and I would call that like, yeah, it's a really good starting spot. Then of course be, fielding your next certification after that, but you need to start building skills, building your profile, kind of doing all those things we just talked about. Get out there on LinkedIn, get out there in GitHub and make a blog, start a YouTube channel, do something to start to showcase all those things that you're having fun with and learning, along with actually getting those certifications.
Wow. Well, once again, Daniel has done it. He has answered the question.
I did. I don't know if it's the right answer, but
I'm writing this stuff down so I can look at it later.
Yeah, she's
so I can
taking
Google
notes.
it later. Yeah, I'm taking notes.
She's like,
I'm
journalism's stupid.
Like a
hacking.
Yeah, I was a telecom major. So fun fact. And now I'm here. And
Yeah.
this is so much more fun.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I'm here.
And this is why there's all these people here, right? Because
Yeah,
it is
yeah.
super fun. I never get tired of learning something about this stuff.
Yeah. There's
So,
always something.
yeah.
Always something new to learn, and it's constantly developing. So
Yes, absolutely.
You can never have learned everything.
Oh man, yeah. What do they say? You never step in the same river twice.
Yeah.
With
yeah.
with this,
Pocahontas quote or something.
I think it's Heraclides.
Oh, is it?
Something
I heard
like
it on
that,
Pocahontas,
yeah.
so I don't. That shows how much I know.
Yeah.
We've got another question if you're feeling up to it.
Well, I mean, if we must, let's go for it.
We must. Yeah.
That's what
They're-
the people came
they're
for,
telling me-
right?
They're telling me I'll be arrested if we don't. So
Oh, okay. Well,
we've
you already got warrants, I'm sure.
That's true. That's true. We've got a question. It says, what are your thoughts on the Azure Cybersecurity Architect certification, SC100? Will ITProTV consider a series on this certification?
So this is where I get to utilize one of my favorite answers to questions, and it is, I don't know, and I don't know. Because I haven't looked at Azure Cybersecurity Architect. That would be an Adam Gordon question. I can totally reach out to him, so if we want to get that person's information, like an email address or something, we can shoot that over to Adam and have him answer that question. That's not really my niche of things. I'm really interested in that stuff. I just haven't had an opportunity to kind of dive into those two things. And I sure as heck don't know whether or not we're going to film it because Adam would be the lead SME on those. And I'm not sure. I haven't seen the roadmap if it's on there or not. If anybody in my ear wants to tell me if that's true or false, I'll be more than happy to go ahead and convey that information to that good person out there that's trying to figure that out.
He's talking about the voices.
Yeah, we have voices in our heads.
We
What?
do. We do.
What?
Sometimes they communicate,
yeah.
and we're thinking the
They
same
do.
thing. It's great.
Yeah.
It's God.
I just heard it. Good.
It's
For anybody that gets that reference, applaud. So we're not sure. Hopefully we'll figure that out. I'm hearing MS 900, but not SC 100 so far, which I think is a very, if I'm not mistaken, that's a top tier. SC 900
there
next
we go,
year,
yeah.
but not 100, right?
I think that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll leave
Well,
it at
there you go.
that. Tentatively, don't hold my feet to the fire on that.
Just keep your eye on the website. You know, look for emails if
Yeah.
you're signed up for that.
Yeah.
And
Drop an email address in whatever chat you're in.
well, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. Yeah, totally do that on this
Or send it to
cybersecurity
support
webinar.
at ITPro, right? Isn't it support at ITPro.tv?
Probably.
Something like that. Yeah.
I
Somebody
don't
will get
remember
back
things. Yeah. Yeah, don't drop it in the chat. That's probably not a good
Yeah.
idea.
Oh man, I love all this spam and malware. That's fun.
We love phishing emails. It's great. We've got a question from Grayson, if you are up for it.
Grayson.
Grayson.
I feel like whether I'm
Individual
up for it or
named
not,
Grayson.
you're going to hit me with it anyway.
Yeah,
so.
that's true. I don't listen to a thing you say. Grayson says, while studying for CompTIA Pen Test Plus PTO 002, I think, do I need the full suite of tools when installing Kali Linux for a virtual machine? Oh, in a virtual machine, sorry.
No.
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 Easy enough.
Simple answer. No, you don't need the full suite of tools because it's just an apt-get update, apt-get install away from installing it if you find yourself. So if you're looking to like shave some time off of that download or save some space on your disk, yeah, just go with the standard install or even if do they have a light install? I don't remember. But yeah, just install the standard package. And if you need something, apt-get update, apt-get install, or go to the GitHub page and rip it down, do a git clone, and you're off to the races. I've recently kind of just started going with a standard Linux install and not even doing Kali so much anymore. I mean, that's personal preference. I got nothing against Kali. I like Kali, and I still will continue to use Kali, but I'm just kind of like, my daily driver I just installed the tool and look, it's there. So even with that, you don't necessarily need Kali. It's just a platform that tries to give you convenience of these are all installed and working as of this download that you just grabbed. So it's all about that convenience factor with that.
In reference to the last question that you asked, one of the voices reminded me there is a course request feature. If you go to, I think, help.itpro.tv, there's a page about it that tells you a little more about it, and then there's an option to submit a request for a course. So definitely take a look at that.
Absolutely.
If that's a course that you're interested in seeing here, maybe we will.
Heck,
we'll do
I'm
it.
kind of excited. That sounds interesting, honestly.
If we're in a silly, goofy mood, maybe
I really
we'll do
hope we do.
Well, all right. Now that we've covered that base, I've got another question for you from David.
Okay.
It says, are there any publications or groups, Daniel, being you, would recommend to stay in the loop regarding InfoSec and pen testing?
Publications or, what was it?
Groups.
Groups. So honestly, I do lean heavily on LinkedIn for this very thing. You start following the right people and the right organizations, you're going to pick up a lot of interesting and relevant current news about security, technology, and things. It's all about getting that curating that feed so that what you're seeing and learning how to kind of manipulate the algorithm a little bit. As far as LinkedIn goes, I think if you look at something for more than 3 seconds, it thinks, you like this, let me show you more. So I typically kind of scroll through really fast and I've learned to kind of speed scroll. And then if I see something interesting, I'll scroll back really fast and then scroll up really fast and scroll back really fast so that I'm kind of reading it as it goes by. And then if it does look interesting, I'll stop on it. And then I kind of curate my feed that way. And of course, you can do this with other things as well. Just your YouTube, finding the right YouTubers, finding the right Twitch streamers, and that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of good ones out there, the ones I follow. And then, of course, you talked about publications. There are digital and print magazines that are out there. The old and venerable 2600, the Hackers Quarterly, it's always a good one. It comes out 4 times a year, but always has interesting stuff in it. There's, I'm trying to think of some. There's one called Hacking. I think that's what it's called, Hacking, but the G is a 9. So Hacking Magazine, I think, is another one. And there's Pen Tester Magazine, I think. Pen Tester Magazine. If you're, of course, I'm really focused on the hacking side of things. So that's what I get. That's what I look for in publications and my curated feed. I'm looking for those specific things. But find what you're looking for. I don't know so much on the defensive side of things, just because that's not my thing. So I can't answer to that side of it. But for me on that stuff, I'm sure there's probably like some DFIR stuff as well. So just depending on what you're looking for, start reaching out. This is, again, where you can lean heavily on the community. Make a LinkedIn post. Hey, who's a great, if you're on that blue team side of things, you're looking for good defensive publications, where should I go? Hey, who uses what out there? For me, I also listen to podcasts as well. A lot of great podcasts. I like Darknet Diaries. I like, the Tech NATO, right? We do tend to cover some security stuff from time to time, like a lot, honestly. So the good podcasts out there will get you really far. Red Siege, Black Hills, John Strand's podcast is really good because they do tend to cover both sides of the fence when it comes to both defensive, instant response, red teaming things. It's all there. They have a great podcast. So that's a really good, and from there, you'll start hearing, oh, well, I was reading such and such. And you go, oh, I've never heard of that. Let me write that down. Let me go ticky, 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 ticky. Ah, that's there. That's cool. Yeah, I can sign up for this. Excellent. Let me get that newsletter. Let me get all that stuff. And then it just kind of snowballs from there. Once you kind of get your, as they say, the camel gets his nose under the tent, it won't be long before he's in the room, right? Everything just kind of opens up to you after that.
Do they say that?
That is a saying, yes.
That's apparently a common phrase. So
Yeah.
I missed the boat on that one.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I've got 2 new pieces of information now. So we've got another question here. This one's coming from the chat on YouTube. I think this is probably a question that comes up a lot. I would imagine you probably hear it a lot because it's a question that I had. It says, do you need to learn coding for cybersecurity? And my guess, I mean, you're the expert, but my guess would be depending on, because cybersecurity is a broad field, but
Yeah.
depending on what sector, I guess, maybe you don't have to, but that it's really, really, really helpful if you do. That would be my guess.
So why are you taking my answer, Sophia?
Yeah, I'm theft. I'm one of the voices in his head.
So
actually.
never mind. Got your new host here, Sophia. I'm just kidding. Yeah. No. That is the answer, though, right? Honestly, okay, there's more to it than that, obviously,
Sure.
right? But basically, yes. There are cybersecurity jobs that require zero coding knowledge at all. Cool, find them, go get them. I've answered this question many times in the past. I'll answer it for you again because you are here asking and I want to give you what I think about this. I do wish you to take just a second, kind of sit back in your chair and examine the motive behind the question. Now, I don't know you, I can't read any kind of inflection or anything like that. You may just be straight up asking for asking's sake and just wanted to know, yes or no. But a lot of people that ask me this question, I can, especially when they're in person, I get the sense that they are asking because they are hoping the answer is no. They do not want to learn coding, and if that is going to be a barrier or a gateway to getting into cybersecurity, then they're going to either be dejected and give up on it, or that's really not what they're hoping to hear. They want to not have to learn coding because it's obviously like a full, it's its own career field, for goodness sakes, right? And now you're saying I got to learn this career and this career, so I totally get it. I'm guilty as charged, right? This guy did not want to hear, you got to learn some coding. I'm like, no, you don't. No, because I'm not doing it and you can't make me, right? Then I learned some coding and I was like, this is really helpful. Like not just in security. Weird. It's like helpful everywhere. And then I reflected upon my motivations on why I didn't want to learn coding because I thought it's really hard. It's going to take a lot of time. I just want to do the hacky stuff. I just want to go there, right? So I get that. I was that person. I'm not saying you are, but there are those people that are out there and I was one of them. So once I kind of pushed that aside and just said, okay, well, I'm going to learn the basics of some programming language, learn Bash, learn Python. Cool. That immensely helped me in the security stuff that I do, as well as just general IT. I'd come across like, oh, I need to fill out, I need you to create a form that does this and does that, or has all this information in it. And I'm like, and I got to do it because here for our show process, I was having to create documents that had similar content in it, but was just like iterations of the same kind of thing. It was repetitive. And I went, hold on, I think I can write a script that builds this for me, and then all I have to do is fill in only the pertinent information, saving me time, saving me effort. And I built that script in 30 minutes. And I was like, cool, now I have all my documents ready. All I have to do is fill in the stuff that couldn't be scripted. Sweet. So I have just started telling people, if you're new to IT, you're like, I'm a career changer, or I'm getting into college, or I'm not going to go to college, I just want to kind of go into the IT field straight out of high school. Cool. I'm not saying go take a formal class or anything like that, but grab a book, find an online resource or something to that effect and learn Python, right? Just do that. I'm not saying you gotta just focus in on learning Python and nothing but Python. What I mean is, like, when you have some spare time, set aside 30 minutes every day to learn something new about Python. Learn some of those basics. Figure out what those basics are, and there are great resources out there that will help you with this, good books, and so on. I'm thinking about, like, so I want to say it was the NSA actually released their Python training for free, PDF. Go grab it. There's Learn Python the Hard Way, another great book about learning Python. Just reading the documentation itself is actually quite useful for the Python docs, right? I think it's docs.python.com, something like that, or python3.docs.com. I forget, but it's one of those two. Just look up Python 3 docs. Free, cost you nothing. All of these things I've told you. Well, no, the Learn Python the Hard Way is a pay-for book, but it's worth it, totally worth it. Great book, right? So just start spending some time each day increasing your knowledge, doing some repetitive things, figuring those little things out. Totally focus on your cybersecurity stuff. Go hog wild over there on that side of things. Or just IT, if you're learning IT, go hog wild. But spend a little time every day. I say, out of the gate, you should be learning some sort of coding. That way, when you get to the level you want to be at, that stuff is not foreign to you. Because that's what will happen. I was like, oh, okay, websites, cool, I want to hack a website. How does this hack work? I don't understand. That's because I don't understand PHP, which is where or I don't understand JavaScript. It doesn't make sense to me because I don't know how those things work. Had I already had that experience and knew a bit about coding, because as soon as you start picking up one language, the other languages kind of open themselves up to you. You go, oh, I see what they're doing there. Yeah, because that's like this in Python. And they're just doing this. I got you. That's cool. And only those little weird idiosyncrasies that are specific to those languages will start to kind of trip you up. But because of having a background in it, it won't take you very long to go, yeah, I got that. That's not a big deal. I figured that out. And now, hold on. Now I can take the security concept that I learned and I can smash these things together. Hold on. Oh yes, mountaintop reached. I have hacked something. Booyah, right? So I know, as Sophia has aptly pointed out, there are definitely certain spaces in cybersecurity that do not require coding at all. That doesn't mean you shouldn't learn it. It's still a really good skill to have. Looks good on a resume. If you're going for those pen tester jobs, I can't tell you the last time I saw a job post for even a junior pen tester that was without experience or familiarity with one or more of these scripting or coding languages. So there it is.
And I don't know if this is true for, I don't know if this is generally true, or maybe this is just me, but I would imagine even if you don't set out to learn that stuff, if you start learning other things, you might kind of accidentally have to start learning. We did that course on AWS pen testing.
Yeah.
It was Intro to AWS pen testing.
Yeah.
And I was really interested in what he was doing. I was like, oh, that's so cool. How are you doing that? And I don't know that I would say it was intense coding or anything like that, but there was stuff in there that I was like, I'm not going to learn that. I'm not going to learn that. And then a few months later, I was like,
I need to learn that.
I kind of want to try this. And then, I just have to download this really quick. I just have to do, and then before I know it, I'm like, I know these commands and I'm typing them.
Yeah.
And so it was an accident. I didn't mean to do that, but now I feel a little more comfortable in working in this. I guess I was just working in PowerShell was all I was doing.
Yeah,
so
but you started to immerse yourself into that world. By necessity, you were like, well, if I want to do X, I got to do Y.
Yeah.
Right? So strap the old chin strap here because we're getting ready to go into this thing. And is it kind of rough? Do you get that? Let me ask you this, because it's true for me. Do you get that almost anxiety feeling about this is really hard and I flipping hate this, right?
Especially if I can't do it on the first try,
right.
I'm like, forget it. This is stupid.
I'm constantly trying to tell my kids, learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right? If you get that, if you learn to do that, there is nothing you won't accomplish in life, right? So I have learned to go, take a deep breath, Daniel. You'll get it. Just keep trying. Just keep going. Keep working. It is going to happen. It just takes time. Unfortunately, you're not the smartest man in the world. What are you going to do? You can either sit here and complain about it or you can get to work, So I get to work. And I've built a pretty nice skill set doing that. And I'm continuing to build a skill set. I'm always constantly reaching beyond my grasp. And hopefully you are as well. And coding can definitely be that. But man, once you've opened that door and you have that capability, you're going to be writing your own tools. You're going to be creating your own exploits. You're going to be doing things like buffer overflows, and you're going to be doing stuff like writing proof of concept code. You're going to be debugging stuff. And that's all great stuff. That is a good part of the cybersecurity world. So there you go. That's my answer. Hopefully it wasn't too vague. All that to say, yeah, I think you should learn coding even though you don't have to.
Well, thank you for the answer to that question. I think now that we're kind of nearing the end of our first hour here, so I think we're going to go ahead and take a little break so that Daniel can rest his vocal cords from all of the profound, I guess, verbalizing he's been doing. He's going to take a little break, and when we come back, yeah, there you go. That's the word I was looking for. I knew it started with a P. When we come back, he'll do more of that. But we've also got John Strand that's going to be joining us after this break, so stick around for that. We will see you in just a few minutes.
Welcome to ITProTV, an e-learning company with thousands of hours of engaging video training for IT professionals with fresh content added daily. What makes ITProTV stand out? It all starts with our edutainers, who create better than classroom experiences for training you'll look forward to watching.
So an edutainer is someone who takes a topic, an educational topic, and makes it more fun, enjoyable. My vision for ITProTV was to make the product that I wish I had when I got started.
The dashboard is great because you can actually pick up right where you left off. You can also end up seeing new courses that are available to you, and with a membership, you have access to a variety of study tools.
Follow along with virtual labs and test your skills with practice tests. And unlike traditional training, you aren't handcuffed to your desk. Sure, you can watch from there or from your couch with Apple TV and Roku apps, or from anywhere with mobile apps. The training is even available for download. If you're ready to watch and learn with the IT pros, check out the flexible membership choices online today at www.itpro.tv. Welcome to ITProTV, an e-learning company with thousands of hours of engaging video training for IT teams, with fresh training courses added daily. What makes ITProTV stand out? It all starts with our edutainers, who create better than classroom experiences for training your team will look forward to watching.
So an edutainer is someone who takes a topic, an educational topic, and makes it more fun, enjoyable. My vision for ITProTV was to make the product that I wish I had when I got started.
The dashboard is great because you can actually pick up right where you left off. You can also end up seeing new courses that are available to you, and with a membership, you have access to a variety of study tools.
You can follow along with virtual labs and test your skills with practice tests. IT leaders can also take advantage of the Pro Portal to help their team grow.
The ITProTV Pro Portal gives leaders the power to manage their investment in IT training. They can assign seats and courses and check in on progress to ensure their outcomes are being met.
And unlike traditional training, you aren't handcuffed to your desk. Sure, you can watch from there or from your couch with Apple TV and Roku apps, or from anywhere using mobile apps. The training is even available for download. If you're ready for your team to watch and learn, check out the flexible plan choices online and request a live demo for your business today at www.itpro.tv.
What did I tell you? We're back. It was only a few minutes. That wasn't that bad. And we've got Daniel here with us once again to answer some more of your questions, but we are also joined, if I'm not mistaken, by Mr. John Strand. Is that right?
Hey, Mr. John Strand has entered the building, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be a great day now because, John, there you are. I feel like this is the time where I go, incoming message from the big giant head, because we got this lovely, awesome big board here. You look great. Yeah. How's it going, John?
I'm trying to figure out where I can put my eyes so it looks like I'm like staring at the back of your head. I think I got it. It's right here. This is the spot.
I feel like John is watching.
I feel like someone's watching me.
So we've been talking, we've been answering questions, we've been having a great time. So we were so glad to have you be able to stop by and hang out with us and get some questions fielded. We definitely got a chance to talk about Wild West Hacking Fest. Somebody actually asked, "What's my favorite conference?" And I was like, "Oh, that's easy."
And the answer is DerbyCon, but it doesn't exist anymore.
Yes, no,
right?
It's gone. Yeah. So I had to settle for Wild West Hacking Fest.
There you go. And I'm cool with that, by the way. I am totally cool with that. If as long as I'm in that rarefied air of like DerbyCon and possibly ShmooCon, then we're in a good place.
Oh yeah, I forgot about ShmooCon. Good job on bringing that back up.
Notice we don't mention DEF CON because no one feels good about DEF CON for at least 6 months after DEF CON's over.
Oh man, that is. Someone told me it was like hacker cosplay.
It is.
I was like, that is an apt description.
That sums it up.
But very fun. But you look rested, you look well. Are you ready to take on some of these questions? Because these people got some really good, insightful questions that they're just dying to have you answer the questions on. So Sophia, hammer away, fire.
We've got a lot queued up for you, so we have plenty of material here to work with. We've got a question here from Sven, excuse me. It says, I have a question about security architectures. What do you think about NGFW? For example, Palo Alto, or I think that says Fortinet?
Fortinet?
Versus
Fortinet,
proxies like Broadcom. Do I still need a proxy today, or is a NGFW up to layer 7 at least as good in terms of attack detection?
Okay, neither of it really matters all that much. And let me explain why. If you're looking at next generation firewalls, which I don't know about you all, but that makes me feel nostalgic. I haven't heard it called NG firewalls for like a long time. But whenever you're looking at all of these different things, it actually started way back in the day at Palo Alto whenever they started doing content inspection. And that was one of the big things. And that was a huge deal for Palo Alto when it first came out, where it could actually look into, I'm not going to buy into the layer 7 madness. The OSI model is a lie. There are only 4 layers, as we're referencing Star Trek at this point. You basically are looking at the application layer. There's only 4. Once you get into presentation, all that other stuff, it doesn't really exist, but that's a whole nother conversation. But if you're looking inside of the application, that is what that next generation firewall is doing. Now, why would I say it honestly doesn't make any difference whenever we're looking at proxies? Doesn't make as much of a difference as it did about 10 years ago, simply because the amount of encryption that's being done. So you have almost everything that you see today is being encrypted with TLS SSL. Now you can drop into these products where you can do something where it decrypts the TLS SSL and then it can look inside the payload. And that's cool, I guess. But most of the C2 backdoors that are out there today, you can encrypt the data inside of the TLS packet. So even if they can see inside of it, it's still going to be encrypted. Now, some of those devices, if they're actually intercepting TLS SSL, they will look inside the packet and make sure it conforms to like HTTP standards. But even then, we can encrypt inside of it as well. So whenever we're talking about this, we released an open source tool called RITA, Real Intelligence Threat Analytics. Instead of trying to get down to the signatures, what we had back in 2003, 2005, taking a step back and looking at the behavior of the communication patterns. So check out RITA, Real Intelligence Threat Analytics. It's out on GitHub. It basically will stand up Zeek for you. It'll look at the connection log, the DNS logs, the X509 logs, and I can't remember what the other logs are because I've been basically like presenting for like 9 hours straight right now. But it'll look at the behavioral patterns of connections to try to identify C2. And it can work in conjunction with your existing infrastructure. So your proxy works at identifying different websites and people, like bad things that people may go to. And your next generation firewall for egress traffic will do likewise. So you're going to be getting in those feeds of known bad sites and things like that. And then you can use something like RITA to do frequency analysis of the communications to let you know if there's something weird. One final thing that I think is really probably the most important, regardless of whatever product you are using, you can categorize, go to a screen where it'll categorize the traffic. It'll be like ad traffic, gaming traffic, news traffic, and almost every single device, there's this magical category called uncategorized. Don't allow uncategorized. And the reason why is if your firewall vendor, be it Cisco, be it Fortinet, be it Palo Alto, has never once seen that domain or that website, it is not a website that you want your users to go to. So if you set, so uncategorized, if it's never seen it before, it will block by default. You're going to be in a much better place regardless.
Wow, that's the kind of answer right there, ladies and gentlemen, that you came here for, because well said, sir. I mean, goodness gracious, you obviously have a wealth of experience with working with these things, building your RITA product. Is that from GitHub, right? Is this just a a free download and it does all these wonderful things for us?
What you do is you download the install script and you run it, and it automatically installs Mongo, Rita, Bro, Zeek, Zeek. It's not Bro anymore.
It's not Bro anymore.
Installs Zeek and everything for you, and it can be up and running in less than 10 minutes on an Ubuntu system.
That is insane and awesome all at the same time. So great stuff. Man, this is a great way to start the show with John here. That question was definitely above my pay grade, so I'm glad he got that one. Sophia, what else we got on the question block?
We're going to be sticking with that firewall theme for this next one. This one comes from Brian. It says, firewalls seem to be less and less secure these days. How can they help out with cybersecurity, and what's the best way to integrate them?
So one of the best things you can do with firewalls, let's look at it in two separate ways. One is an external firewall. It's stopping attacks coming into your environment. One of the reasons why firewalls are less successful at detecting attacks is, once again, there's a lot of encryption that's being used. And really, firewalls have trouble dealing with that. The other thing is, when you're looking at exploitable remote services, we're not seeing them like we were 10 years ago. Usually, whenever we gain access to an environment at Black Hills Information Security, it's usually through like a password spraying attack or a misconfiguration or something of that nature. Actually going and scanning, finding a Metasploit exploit and gaining access is incredibly rare. I would say it happens once, maybe every 2 to 3 months. Now, misconfigurations, we take advantage of that all the time, but that's usually something the firewall would allow through. So on the outside, trying to protect you, you absolutely need to have it. There's no question, but I wouldn't say it's less effective or less secure. It's just the attack surfaces have shifted a little bit. But let's talk about a way that you can actually utilize your firewalls in your environment to maximum effect. If you're going to use your firewalls, one of the biggest things that we see missing today is internal firewalls and internal segmentation. And there's a couple of ways that you can do this. If you're looking at, let's talk about post-exploitation. I get access to a workstation. That happens all the time, by the way. And I don't want to say you should be okay with it, but you should be okay with it like you are with death and taxes. You're going to get initial compromise in your environment. It's going to happen. Come to grips with it. What's not okay is post-exploitation lateral movement. And what you can do is, there's a couple of interesting things you can do. One, you can basically use your internal firewalls to do internal segmentation and treat your internal network as hostile, because it is hostile. The other thing that you can do, many of your router devices have their router firewall combinations anyway. You can enable private VLANs. And with private VLANs, it forces any layer 2 communication on a switch between two hosts to become a layer 3 adjudication. And at that particular point, if I'm trying to talk from host A to host B on the same network segment, let's say 2 workstations, if there's not a rule in my firewall that allows that, it stops that from communicating. And that'll stop a lot of post-exploitation activities. Things like Bloodhound immediately go up in smoke very quickly if you can actually configure that. So yes, if you're looking at firewalls, a number of ways that they can be utilized. On the outside of your environment, they're table stakes. They have to be there. Just because you're not getting the level of alerts that you saw in the past doesn't mean they're worthless. It just means there's less remotely exploitable services that are out there. But post-exploitation lateral movement is a way that you can absolutely implement your firewalls to maximum effect to make a hacker cry. And remember, every time a hacker cries, collect their tears. It makes the best wine.
I love that. That is amazing.
He had that one in the chamber ready to go.
Yeah, he did, didn't he? Yeah, John, that is highly insightful. I mean, very cool to think of. Yeah, we used to lean very heavily on firewalls on the perimeter, but if you're not segmenting inside, as soon as someone does gain that access, they're just going to start waltzing around your network fairly quickly. So if you just start making a bunch of network segmentation, that becomes an extremely difficult task, and you're just kind of pigeonholed into that one box you compromise.
Exactly.
And now you're looking for those 0 days or whatever all the time.
And isn't it ironic that our computer systems are more secure at a Starbucks with their host-based firewall turning on than they are in a corporate environment? I think we need to change that,
Yeah,
too.
that doesn't seem right, does it? Doesn't seem right. All right, not seeming as doesn't seem right. Doesn't seem right. We don't have another question to go.
Oh, we do.
Oh, do we?
Oh,
now?
we do.
Well,
We've got a
then
list.
have at thee.
And this one, we were talking a little bit ago about AWS, so that's what this one's about. It's from Michelle. It says, what is the best way to ensure your application is secure in AWS, utilizing only previously certified AWS resources in your dev pipeline?
Oh, God. All right, so this one drives me nuts, okay? So if you're looking at AWS and you're loading up interfaces, or you're loading up different services, what exactly does AWS mean? Are we talking about Kinesis? Are we talking about the database services in Redis? What what exactly does that mean is something that I think is really, really interesting, because AWS is not just AWS. It's the services that you start in AWS. And here's where this gets really, really weird. Number one, don't let me get access to your AWS credentials. Just please enable two-factor authentication. Like, pretty please, if you could do that, I would be super duper happy. Because as an attacker at BHIS, that is one of the main ways that we try to gain access into these things. If I can get access to those credentials, or if you have keys that are stored on GitHub repositories, I think that that's another example of how things can go horribly, horribly, horribly wrong. But if you look at a lot of attacks, right? I was actually an expert witness on the Capital One hack, was out in Seattle, working that case with the attorneys. And that was fascinating to me, like how the reverse proxy worked and how you could send the authentication to the proxy and then the proxy would forward it on your behalf. The proxy would be trusted. And because it came from a trusted resource that it was proxying through, it was really, really complicated. But it was very specific to that implementation of the technology stack that Capital One was using in AWS. And that's critical. I'll give you another example. You can actually, you can create entire technology stacks with like Elastic MapReduce. Let's just use that as an example. You can go to Amazon, stand up an entire Elastic MapReduce cluster, push of a button, right? And whenever it gets pushed and it gets loaded, this is a vulnerability that we discovered a couple of years ago. It would be in a mostly secure configuration. But what happened is whenever you use like auto scaling in AWS, it basically will start scaling up the resources as needed and start scaling them down as they're not needed. This saves you a lot of money. And here's my recommendation to you. How does your application footprint look when your application stack is not scaled? How does it look when it is scaled? So an example would be, as it was scaling up the Elastic MapReduce cluster, we found out that the Hue interface was they were taking the Hue interface necessary configuration for it to scale, and they were spinning up multiple Hue interfaces. But every time they scaled up another Hue interface, its actual login credentials went back to the default. Where if you connected to the Hue interface, it said, congratulations, welcome to your new Hue interface. You haven't set credentials. Please set your credentials. And it gave you direct access into Hue, and then you could basically set up jobs and gain access to the entire cluster. So my point on this is, don't look at AWS as a separate, brand new, unique entity. You're standing up technology stacks in AWS, and you're going to audit and you're going to test those technology stacks the exact same way you would in your own organization, with a few different looks of how you're scaling those things up and scaling those things down. That's number one. Number two, there are services, and I mentioned Kinesis is just one of them. You have Lambda functions. You have a lot of stuff that exists in AWS. You're not allowed to test those things. Like Amazon, you can test almost anything, but as soon as you, oh no, I don't teach those classes anymore. I don't teach this is not true. I don't teach those classes anymore. I retired from the SANS Institute last year. Fake news. But with those certain services that Amazon is using, you can't go about testing those. And I'm going to say that that's okay. And the reason why I say that that's okay is if those shared resources that Amazon uses across all of their environments for all of their customers, you know, IP gateways, Lambda, Kinesis, I already mentioned those. If there's a hack for those, then you're just yet another victim in a sea of other victims. So don't sweat those too much. Lock down your credentials for gaining access to Amazon, and then start doing security assessments on the technology stacks that you spin up in Amazon, just like you would any other resource.
John, do you see a lot of your clients that are thinking that because they are in AWS that they don't have to do those things, that Amazon is taking care of that for them, and they don't realize that's the onus is on them?
So it's funny, I'm kind of seeing the world split, right?
Yeah.
You have like AWS, a whole bunch of people using AWS, and I almost want to put them in the category of like the Silicon Valley type companies, right? You know, whenever you're like Active Directory, it's like sunlight to a vampire. They're like, we don't want that here. We want to run Mac. So they run AWS. And then you have standard kind of stodgy corporate America, and they're all using Azure, right? And it's interesting to see that breakdown. Of course, there's bleed between the two. That happens all the time. But it is interesting to me, especially on the AWS side. We see a ton of customers, especially for forensics and incident response, where they are literally getting compromised. And I start asking them questions like, hey, do you have the credentials for this? And they're like, no, my developer does. Great. Can I talk to your developer? Oh, he was a subcontractor. I've got to call him or her to try to get the credentials. It's nuts. But absolutely, with cloud computing, that is one of the major problems where people just assume that the cloud service provider is going to handle everything for them.
You know, I don't blame them too much. They do tend to make you think that is they come to us. We will take care of you.
Right.
Like,
well,
just give us
you see those
right.
you see those presentations to C-Os, and that's exactly what they say.
Right.
They're like, oh, IT is expensive. Look at all the people you have to manage your IT. Come to us, and you don't have to have those expensive. And you and I have been around long enough. We've totally seen companies where they cut their IT staff by half when they went to the cloud, thinking that there was going to be huge cost savings. It didn't work out well.
No. Well, hopefully they learn those lessons, and we'll start to see some improvement in the years to come. All right,
Absolutely.
Sophia, speaking of improvement, let's improve on our question answering capabilities and go for another question.
Yeah, how about you do that? We have a question from Gabriel. It's about honeypots, which we have a little aside that we can include here from our Technado this week, in just a second. But the question is, do you have any recommendation for any open source tools to build a honeypot, and how effective are honeypots to help trap cyber attackers?
Good question.
It is a good question, you're right.
I love John's face.
All right, we're going to a screen share, everybody.
Let's do it.
Oh,
All right. As the techs are like, what? Oh, wait.
How
Get
dare you,
VMware
sir.
up and running. There we go. There we go. So I've got a couple I want to show you all, just because I love honeypots. I actually teach a class on honeypots at Anti-Siphon. It's actually pay what you can. So if anybody ever wants to take a honeypot class from me, if you do a search for John Strand, pay what you can, cyber deception, it'll take you to our website. I just finished up a session. I want to say I finished up the session last week, but I've been teaching nonstop. And this is basically pay what you can. You can pay $0 if you want. You can pay $495 if you want. It's completely up to you. And it's all about cool honeypot things. And I'm going to share with you, I think I'm going to share with you two things, all right? Two quick honeypots that I think are just the cat's pajamas. One of the things that every single organization needs to do with honeypots right away is create honey users in your domain. And a honey user account is exactly as it says on the tin. It's going to be a user account that you create in your environment that as soon as somebody tries to access that particular account, it's going to trip an alert. And I'm going to run through this kind of quick, and I apologize for that, but you're going to be able to see just how this works, right? So if I cd into my tools directory and I do, what is it? It's 200 user gen bat. I'm going to generate 200 users. And this is all available online. You can see it, saw it on GitHub. So we've got 200 users that we just created. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a rule, an event viewer, that will automatically just filter out anytime anyone tries to access Frank, right? So the Frank account. And when you do this, it basically makes it so if any attacker post-exploitation attempts to do a password spray in an environment, in your environment, you're going to generate an alert as soon as somebody tries to access the Frank account on the system. All right, so we've got that. So I'm waiting for event viewer to come back to life. There we go. So now I've actually got some like very basic stuff, and I do this specifically just so people can see how easy it is to do with just standard Windows tools. So we're going to create a custom view. We're going to edit this XML. It's going to warn me not to do that. Stand back, Microsoft. I know what I'm doing. And we're going to create this rule that anytime anyone ever tries to access the Frank account on this particular system, it's automatically going to generate an alert that somebody tried to access Frank. And there's already some logs in here of the Frank account being created. So what we can do is we can actually then switch over to PowerShell, and I'm going to zoom in here. And what we're going to do is we are going to run a tool that does a password spray just like an attacker would. If I could type, it'd be awesome. There we go.
That
We're
is
now
the big
PowerShell.
stumbling block for us, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And then whenever you got people watching, you get all uncomfortable. Lucky for me, I have the magic power of copy and paste. And I'm going through this quick. I usually go through it a lot slower and explain what I'm doing. But in this situation, I'm just creating a tool that does a password spray. We're going to run this password spray against every user account I just created with a password of winter 2020. Takes a few seconds. It's going to get some accounts. It's not going to get the Frank account. It's not going to get the Frank account, but that doesn't matter, because with the honeypot, as soon as somebody tries to log in as the Frank account, it's going to generate an event. You can see that we go from like 4 events to now 6 events, where you can see that somebody tried to log in as Frank. This is easy. And if I can do this in like 45 seconds or minute and a half, whatever it was, you can absolutely do it in your SIM, where you can set up a rule. If anyone tries to authenticate as your Honey account user, you're going to detect them. The other tool that's out there, this is by Thinkist, Tarun Mir and his tool, or his company, just amazing company. It's called Canary Tokens. And the way Canary Tokens works is you can generate tokens. Oh man, what am I running here? I'm probably running proxy on it. You can generate Canary tokens, and you can do all kinds of different tokens. If an attacker interacts with a web bug, it triggers an alert. DNS token triggers an alert. AWS keys. You can actually download AWS keys from this, and I can generate something that shows up in the email. And then you can pepper these AWS keys in your GitHub repository. And if anyone tries to access this S3 bucket, it will automatically generate an email and alert. This is something that Subt, who did all kinds of amazing research for endpoint security bypass through the years, he created one. That as soon as anybody accesses a process, so think about attackers, like whoami.exe is a process that they would try to use, or the other one that they exampled, run DLL32, klist, any of those. As soon as an attacker runs any of those commands, it generates an alert. So there's a lot of them in here, right? My all-time favorite, though, is this one. I'm looking for the Stormtrooper. Oh no, they removed it. I got to get on the phone with Casey. But they had this JavaScript that you could load up on a website. And if anybody tried to scrape your website, it would automatically generate alert who was doing that and where they were at. But you can also upload a custom executable in binary. And as soon as somebody tries to access that executable, it automatically generates an alert as well. So really, I think there's so many things that you can do with honeypot technology that is just not that hard to do, super easy to implement, and it's super cost effective, and it's going to detect an attacker. Like the password spray Honey user, every attacker post-exploitation does password sprays. That's just what they do. You can totally detect them, and you can do it at next to no cost whatsoever.
John, I'll be honest with you. One of my favorite talks that I sat at a Wild West Hacking Fest event was about creating your own honeypot things, right? Like if you've got a website, make a fake robots.txt, right? Make all sorts of things that only make a login form that all it does is generate logs so that you can reach in and go, hey, look, someone's trying to go in here. Only an attacker would be looking at these things. Simple things, yet highly effective.
Yep, and there's a lot of products out there that are super expensive, and it doesn't have to be. A lot of those products are like, we stand up hundreds of Windows 2000 servers, and who cares, right? Really, like you said, put the honeypot technology in the place where the attacker's going to go. Hunt in the proper locations, and you're gonna do very well.
Wise words from one John Strand. All right, I know we got more questions, Sophia, so hit us with it.
Always. We always have more questions. This next one also comes from Gabriel. He had an additional question for y'all. It says, what will be the top 5 Kali programs that we should master? And Gabriel is pretty sure that Nmap and Metasploit are on the top of the list.
Ooh, so I'm going to go with Nmap, Metasploit, of course, those two, but also Netcat. Learning, or NCAT also is built into the Nmap project, but there's also variants of Netcat on that. But then I'm going to get a little bit weird. Learn how to do bash scripting. If you learn how to do bash scripting and you learn how to do that properly, it elevates you to another point of being a tester, right? And the final thing is Python. If you know how to script, and you can go to like, I think do you guys have coding classes? I can't remember.
We do.
Yeah.
Well, so, I did a whole course on bash scripting. We also have Introduction to Python, Python for Security.
go take those classes. Because I'm going to tell you right now, if you want to get into pen testing and you do not know how to code, you're going to have a very hard time getting into this field. So you've got to learn, Bash scripting, Python, Nmap, of course, Metasploit, and then Netcat is kind of the one that I use all the time. So check them out.
I'll throw on that fire. How about Burp Suite?
Yeah, but if you're sure, let's go with Burp Suite.
Let's go with it's just handy.
But I would also put head-to-head with that Z attack proxy from OWASP.
I totally agree with you on that.
Yeah. So Burp Suite is great, the free version, but it doesn't have the automated scan capability. But anybody that does anything in web application security testing is going to be using a commercial version of Burp. But if you don't have the money for a commercial version of Burp, go to Z attack proxy. It's free and it's about 80% as powerful as what you can get out of Burp. Portswigger is amazing, but what the OWASP project has done with Zap is truly spectacular.
Yeah, they're a heck of a resource. Just OWASP in general, just always providing us with great resources with all their GOAT projects and Juice Shop. It's just a phenomenal resource. And what they've done, just the short amount of time I've been doing security, and I've seen the Z attack proxy move from where it was to where it is today. It's just crazy, insane how much they progressed with that thing. So it is highly valuable and viable as a solution if you're going to do web app pen testing. So really cool stuff. Good point there, John. All right, Sophia, give us another question if you would, please.
I suppose I can, since you asked so nicely. We have one from Jonathan. We got a similar question earlier, but this one's about Blue Team. It says, what are the best certifications for someone who's on a Blue Team?
Oh, wow. Look.
I'm really enjoying your response here, John.
Like I mentioned, I'm a retired SANS instructor, right? And I taught SANS 504. I was the Dread Pirate Roberts. I took over from Ed Scotus and I handed the torch over to Josh Wright. And I'm going to tell you right now, I still say the best certification in the world is SEC 504 from the SANS Institute. The next best certification is any cyber range that you can go to. Go through and try Hack Me, Hack the Box, ACE-T. There's a bunch of cyber ranges that are out there. Just do them. And if you can't get a SANS cert, go do these cyber ranges. And we're talking about Bash and we talk about Python. You're gonna have to do some coding for that. But I'm seeing more and more companies today that are looking at cyber ranges and how high you progressed in a cyber range as being able to go shoulder to shoulder with security certs. But it can be hard, right? Because a lot of these cyber range challenges, they're asking you to do things you have no idea how to even approach it. And that's going to take some learning. That's going to take some digging, and that's going to take some training. But no, so if we have to choose one, SEC 504 from GIAC and the SANS Institute for a Blue Team, and I'm biased. I'm very, very, very biased. I got my Princess Buttercup. I've retired. I'm done. And seriously, anything beyond that, go do cyber ranges. Just get out there and do stuff, please. That's all I ask.
Yeah, it's like I've been saying it throughout this entire time we've been talking. Getting your hands and stuffing into stuff is the best instructor. It's going to give you the experience because it latches on that context to the concepts that you're trying to learn. So if you start going out there, John is absolutely right. Anybody with a cyber range, just do it. There's a lot of free ones out there, or at least a free tier that you can start working and just do all the free stuff and then move on to the next one and do all that stuff.
And at BHIS, I have people without high school degrees. I have people without college degrees. I have people that they're diggers, right? They're self-educators and they're working hard to try to train themselves, and they take whatever they can get, and they're my best people, hands down.
Yeah, because they have a thirst for it. They want to know it, and they won't stop until they get to that gold. And then, okay, cool, where's the next place?
And I don't want to make you guys blush or anything, but like your pricing is just stupid. Like if somebody's trying to get into this field, like take advantage of any training anywhere that you can get and just sink in. And like I think it's $59 a month for personal is what I'm looking at. That's just freaking fantastic, right? You got to take advantage of that stuff. Working up your career, it's all about the skills that you get, and more skills that you develop. It's like compounding interest. The more you develop your skills early in your career, the more advanced you're going to get. So if you literally take 2 months and you replace, let's say you replace Netflix with training, you replace playing video games with training, It's like that meme. It's like all my friends were drinking and I learned the blade. If you're going through and you're learning, like, this is what you do, this is what you focus on earlier in your career, you're equipped so much better for any of the problems that you're going to encounter later on, and it's just gonna pay off in dividends later.
John, can you imagine if you had all the resources we have today when you started your career? I mean, you're pretty far along, don't get me wrong, but like how much faster you would have gotten there, right?
Well, okay, so you're a gray beard like me. I shaved this morning. But one of the things, I don't know if you remember, when we first started in this industry, it was not nice.
No.
It was not welcoming. It was a whole bunch of people. Every time you had a problem, they would tell you to RTFM. They would call you a noob. They would make fun of you. And then after a while, maybe they would explain or answer your question. And I think that was probably one of the biggest detriments to so many people getting into this industry. And seriously, like, to have the resources that somebody has today is just ridiculous. And it's hard. I don't want to sound mean, but it's hard sometimes whenever I talk to people who aren't taking advantage of the resources that are available to them. It's really hard for me to give those people a chance at Black Hills Information Security if they're like, I just did my college degree, that's all I know. Or, you know, they did just this certification and that's all I know. And it's really the people that are like, I'm doing YouTube videos, I'm doing blog posts, I'm doing cyber range challenges. I've got like 95 Raspberry Pis in my basement walking around, taking over my house. The singularity is real. It exists in my basement. Those are the people that we're ultimately looking for. It's not just a matter of having a vocation. Try to make it an avocation, and that puts you a cut above the rest.
I like that. Good stuff. Well, Sophia, I know you probably got some more questions for us. So
We never run out.
I know, it's like an endless supply.
Got an endless gumball machine of questions. They just keep falling out.
That's right.
So we're going to go ahead and head over to this one. This one says, I'm a business analyst. Which security profession should I choose, provided that I have started with AZ500 and CISM? I don't know if I pronounced that right or if it's got a fun little way to say that acronym. Any suggestion, I'll be happy to take. Big fan of ITProTV.
Oh, very cool. All right, so here's the deal. With this question down below, it doesn't really matter, just as long as you can mix and match. So what I'm going to recommend is what actually calls to you. This is one of those things that I talk to people all the time, like whenever I teach a class and we're talking about hacking and we're talking about defense and we're talking about all these things. There's going to be something that keeps you awake at night that like picks at the back of your head and won't let you sleep. It's going to be a red thing, like offensive. It's going to be a blue thing. Maybe it's forensics. Maybe it's the Amazon AWS stuff. Something is going to catch your interest. And I strongly encourage you to feed that as much as you possibly can. Don't be looking for the best thing, because the best thing is going to be the thing you're the most interested in, because you're going to know that thing better just by memorization. People memorize things that matter to them. So find your path, have lots of options available to you. You're going to find something that just speaks to you, go to it. If you have that background in business management, that is going to be huge, because that's a dual mixed person. So at universities, they talk about this all the time, where people go through and they get a master's degree in like political science, and then they come back through and they get a master's degree in some kind of technical engineering, or they're doing chemical engineering and mechanical engineering. Those people that have that influx and that mix between two separate areas are the people that become incredibly rare for both of those areas. So find whatever technical area just speaks to you, and then go as deep as you possibly can into it, and you're gonna find your way. I would be remiss if I were to tell you, go pen testing. I'd be remiss if I said go forensics and you didn't like it. Then that wouldn't help you like grow in your career. Find that area in IT, that area in computer security that speaks to you, and just feed it as much as you can.
Yeah, man, you gotta water that plant, and finding it can be a fun process, because there's so many areas in which you could go into cybersecurity that you might be like, because I was really brought into, I really enjoyed web app pen testing when I first started into the red side of things. And here lately I've been working on this, IoT hacking thing, getting into hardware hacking. And I'm like, I love this stuff. This is so much fun. It has really captured my attention and my imagination. I just want to do it all the time. Like you said, I can't go to sleep. I'm thinking of like, how can I get into that firmware? What can I do to backdoor it? I go learn more about MIPS and ARM, and I'm just going crazy.
But let's go back, just from what we've talked about you here, right? All of it that got you to the point where you could do that IoT, you talked about Bash, you talked about Linux. These are classes that you taught. You got the web stuff. If you're talking IoT, embedded device, you're going to be dealing with Bash. You're going to be dealing with Python coding. You're going to be dealing with web interfaces. It's like it all builds up and it all stacks on top of each other. And I think it opens up a lot more possibilities insofar as what you can do. And that goes back to something I said earlier. Set that foundation earlier in your career as much as you possibly can. Get diverse, go deep, do whatever, but just dig. And it just pays off because it opens up so many doors later.
Yeah, awesome stuff. All right, Sophia, we still got more time on the clock, so I say we answer a few more questions. What say ye?
I say ye.
Okay, then.
Or I guess would
I
be
say
the.
I.
I say I. Yeah, there we go.
So say we all.
So say
we all, yeah. So this one comes from Todd, and I believe this is directed to John, but you can answer it too if you want, Daniel. It says, are you ever going to play Backdoors and Breaches again? Love that game.
John, you probably play that game all the time.
That's a weird, yeah.
They're probably referencing the fact that, like, there was the time when we played.
Yeah.
And then, so maybe that's what they're referencing. They want to see us play
on the
again.
show. Yeah. Sorry. Now I've got, if I'm ever going to dance again in my head.
George Michael is just.
Yeah, George Michael.
is just haunting you.
Right. So one of the things I would recommend, yes, well, come on, we'll play. You should come on to our webcast next. And we can do Backdoors and Breaches on our show. You've invited us over to your house a couple of times. We can totally do that. Hey, look, it's a younger John Strand with more hair. But you can also play it right now at play.backdoorsandbreaches.com. Go play.backdoorsandbreaches.com, and it's all there, and you can play it anytime. And yeah, I would love to come back on as well. But no, it's I still can't believe it's just like, out of all the things that I've done, like this game that we created is really just taken off in a way that we just did not expect. And
it's funny. I was at Hackett Fest. I was playing with Jason Blanchard. You came over, sat down, and you were like, tell me what you think about this. Let's go. I'm like, this is brilliance. This is absolutely brilliant. I can't wait to play this.
We actually saw a PhD paper that was published that was talking about pedagogical methodologies for IT learning. And it was in the title was Backdoors and Breaches. And we're like, does this mean we're legit? That's weird. But no, I'm actually smuggling 500 copies of Backdoors and Breaches into Brussels, going out to BrewCon next week. And trying to ship things to Europe, as I'm sure you guys know, is a nightmare. So we're literally just packing up a whole bunch of backpacks and rolling bags, and we're smuggling them all into the conference and bringing them to the people in Europe.
Oh, that's going to be a lot of fun. Can you imagine getting stopped at customs? Sir, what are all these boxes in your backpack?
How you deal with that is easy. Anytime anyone ever stops you at any security checkpoint anywhere in the world, the simple solution is you just get geeky. You're like, so what is this? Oh, this is Backdoors and Breaches. It's a game that I created. Here, let me show you, and start opening it up and laying the cards out. Because what they want is for you to go away, or they want you to act like, I don't want to talk about that. But if you're like, let me tell you about computer security, they're like, boom, boom, go, go.
Eyes glaze over. I'm done. Please go.
Let me show you the cards. No,
Let's
Canada
play.
is one of the worst countries to get into.
Yeah.
I was presenting out at, I want to say it was like Sector, but it might have been B-Sides Vancouver. I can't remember. And I got stopped in customs, and they asked me the dreaded question, like, what are you here for? I'm presenting and I'm teaching a class. Is there anyone in Canada that can do what you do? And if you say yes, it's a nightmare, right? So you're like, no. And they're like, well, describe to me what you do. Get all excited and just start going off, and they're gonna push you through. Yeah. They're gonna get you through. But
Travel
they don't
tips
want to
from
hear
John
about your
Strand.
life.
Yeah.
They don't want to hear this.
No.
So.
Awesome stuff. Good stuff, though. Backdoors and Breaches is super fun, and it's just so useful. And to me, that's what, when I told you this is brilliant, that's what was the brilliance to me about it, is how useful it was. I mean, you got to be honest here. The hacking community is almost is synonymous with gamers, just about, right?
Yeah, that's
true.
true.
Once you threw a game on the table, people were like, yep, you got me. Yeah, just shut up and give me the thing.
It also kind of turns this whole thing into like Defense Against the Dark Arts Harry Potter thing, right? Like, here's the attack, here's the counter. Here's the attack, here's the counter. And I think when people start thinking of attacks and defenses that way, it helps.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Sophia, I think we still got time for some more questions.
I think we do. I had a question from one of the voices in my head. Did John also do a comic book?
He did do a comic book.
Oh God.
What is that all
yeah.
about?
So years ago, we did a pen test for a company that spent more on their comic book. They had an internal comic book than they did on security. But we released, we got Recca Publishing. And what you have on the screen right now is Bear versus Bear. Stop right there. Hold on. I want to show you something. Oh, it's just moving around. It's a video.
It's a video.
One of the things that people haven't noticed yet is Blue Bear's father is Winnie the Pooh. Seriously, he's got a picture of him with him and his dad, and it's a Winnie the Pooh look-alike. It's like really, really small and doesn't look like Winnie the Pooh. And he's got a cup that says honey on it. And then Red Team Bear, he was raised by his uncles, Yogi and what was it, Babu, and he was raised in Jellystone Park. And he spent all of his time with his uncles stealing picnic baskets.
Right, so he learned to steal.
Both of these bears have unresolved parenting issues that they have to work through together with their fists.
That is awesome. We were looking at this before, we got started, and I'm like, I've seen the comic, and I was like, I know this. Where did I have seen this before? And they're like, oh, it's John's. I was like, that's right. This is John's comic book. It's so funny. You guys got to check that out. So really cool stuff. Well, John, it looks like we are running out of time. Unfortunately, but man, this has been awesome. I know you're probably like, geez, I have not stopped talking for forever.
No, it's been a day. It's been a day, but this is a cool way to end it out, and I really appreciate you having me on. We got to get you guys to come out to our house. We love what you guys are doing. Keep it up, and it just the whole idea of affordable, absolute world-class training is something the world needs right now.
Well, we appreciate it. The honor is ours, and we thank you so much. Sophia, you gonna talk us a little bit about something or other?
Yes, I do. I have something to give away. You might remember if you joined us at the beginning of the webinar. Before I do that, I want to tell you about our ITProTV subscriptions. You can get a personal membership that provides complete access to all the ITProTV courses with or without practice exams and virtual labs. Now, if you're part of an IT team, you're going to want to check out the ITProTV business page that offers a tour of the Pro Portal that's used to maximize your team's investment in training. And if you do sign up for a personal membership, we've got a lovely, generous man hosting this webinar here. Daniel's going to give you 30% off if you enter the promo code webinar30. So now for the winner of our ITProTV swag, the moment you've all been waiting for. The winner is Michelle. So congratulations, Michelle. You can win some swag just like this. Thank you everyone for joining us today, and definitely join us for our next webinar. We will see you back here again soon on All Things Cybersecurity. Have a great day.